There's a perfect word for what's happening right now on the internet. Enshittification. It perfectly sums up how we went from an internet full of hope for a better future to the craptastic mess we've landed in 2024. And I will pause here for a moment to credit Cory for coming up with this term, because it really is the best made-up word I've come across since, well, I can't get away with that word on YouTube or LinkedIn. So let's just say it's a combination of a type of donkey and an item you'd wear on your head. And it's not just Cory who has noticed that a great internet has kind of gone weird now, that it's not just nerds and the early adopters on boards. The reality is that in 2024 in Australia, 96.2% of us are internet users. 81% of us are active on social media. And our mobile phone connections are 24.3% higher than our population. Safe to say that internet access here is pretty much universal. Yet the internet, despite being more useful, more plentiful, it just seems to have become somehow worse. New Zealand-born and Australian-based writer Gregory Bennett wrote a beautiful observation of this in the Takahē magazine recently. In their piece, Gregory included a few observations that really resonated with me. Take this one, for example. The first page of Google results are links to pages that have scraped other pages for information from other pages that have been scraped for information. All the sources seem to link back to one another. There is no origin. The photos on the page look weird. Their hands are disfigured. There is no image credit. Sounds like AI has taken over, really, doesn't it? And Google isn't the only bit of the internet that was roasted. The Airbnb charges you a $150 cleaning fee, but insists the place needs to be left spotless. There will be a fee if the bedding hasn't been stripped and the dishwasher hasn't been emptied. That is like every Airbnb lately. But there was a time when Google was the most helpful thing in the world, and Airbnb was a godsend when hotels were charging crazy rates, and Uber was way easier than dealing with dirty taxi drivers, and social media was a fun place to reconnect with school friends and play Farmville. Yet now Google only really seems to reliably deliver ads, and Airbnb costs major more than a hotel, and all those dirty taxi drivers are now dirty Uber drivers. And social media, well, it's a place where you go to be annihilated if you don't agree with some person who you went to uni with who has very loud views on something happening in the Middle East. My first experience of the internet wasn't even really the internet. It was a bulletin board system, and you could only dial in for about 20 minutes before you get kicked off. But that 20 minutes was glorious. You'd leave messages for strangers in other parts of the country who would then respond when they were able to get on. And then when you could get on again later, you'd have all these messages waiting from you, or in all these discussion threads you'd contributed to. It was magnificent. It was kind of like Twitter before Elon enshittificated it. And sure, it was slow. Yeah, it was clunky. It was inconvenient. But I never received threatening messages because of who I voted for. And I suppose it's kind of like the internet grew up. When it was a kid, it was carefree and fun and pretty innocent. And as it grew up, it saw more of the world, took on more inputs and opinions, and had a bit of a teenage crisis before maturing into a money-making career man who now makes decisions based on sensible fiscal considerations and keeping things moving while juggling a million things at home. I guess that the internet is a bit like all of us. At some point, we all suffer from our own little bit of enshittification. While we're not quite what we were when we started, we're useful, we're plentiful, definitely in the belly, but we're also a little bit worse. I'm Dante St. James.